Hi and welcome to this month's teaching video where we will be learning the piece Living in Harmony from my book Piano for the Planet. This piece is written in 2/4 time in the key of C major, so zero, sharps, and flats, although you will notice some accidentals throughout the piece which help create some interesting harmonies. The tempo for this piece is marked 108 to 112. Here's how you would clap and count this piece. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. I would suggest saying the ands in between the two beats because that's going to help you keep the eighth notes really steady. You'll notice at the beginning of this piece it's marked legatissimo, which is sort of like legato, which means smoothly, but legatissimo means as smoothly as possible. This piece is made up mostly of continuously moving eighth notes, and it's a little bit different than some other pieces. The eighth notes are broken up between the two hands, and there's no clear melody. Instead, you experience more harmonic shifts within the piece. In bar 17 of this piece, you'll notice that the left-hand rhythm changes from eighth notes to an eighth, a quarter, and then another eighth. And that creates a little bit of a syncopated effect. The way you're going to count and play that rhythm, 1 and 2 and. I'll do it again. 1 and 2 and. So the syncopated effect comes from your thumb playing the quarter note on the and of beat 1. I would absolutely suggest reviewing the C major scale and triads before learning this piece. It would also be useful to review the C chromatic scale and C contrary motion or formula pattern. Even though there's no clear melody and accompaniment, it's a good idea to learn this piece hands separately first. I think you'll notice when you go through hands separately the small changes between the notes of each hand. Many of the notes repeat for 2 measures, but the odd time you'll find the repeated note changed. So in one measure, the notes could go downward, and the next measure, the notes could go upward. When you've learned the piece hands separately, start putting it hands together in small chunks or phrases, maybe 4 or 8 measures at a time. I find it helpful to have a slight wrist and hand movement when I'm playing these eighth notes in between the hands. By doing a very small roll of the hand and wrist, whether the notes are moving downward or upward, you're going to get the accent on the note that you want, the first note of the pair of eighths and not the last note. And it will also help transition the notes between the left hand and the right hand so they are as smooth as possible. Let me show you what I mean. So if I practice the notes in that fashion, when I go to put it at full speed with the pedal, it will sound and look like this. So I encourage you to give that technical exercise a try to help really smooth out your notes and give them a nice musical quality. You do want each measure to have a nice pulse to it on beats 1 and 2. You don't want all of the eighth notes to have an equal importance. It would sound a little bit choppy and unmusical if I didn't accent any of the notes and simply played them all the same. Instead, we're going to aim to accent beats 1 and 2 a little bit more, and the notes that fall on the ands of each beat a little bit less, like this. When you've learned the whole piece hands together, you can start to add in some damper pedal, and this will really help to tie everything together and make it sound as smooth as possible and lovely. I would suggest changing the pedal whenever there's a change of harmony. So sometimes that's every 1 bar and sometimes that's every 2 bars. Another thing you're going to want to add when you're in the polishing phase of this piece is all of the dynamic markings. For the most part, this piece is on the quiet side, but you'll notice a few crescendos and decrescendos throughout the piece that come in the middle of each phrase. You'll strive to shape the phrase so that it is a little bit louder in the middle and then tapers back down at the end. Don't forget to add some breathing spots throughout this piece as well. Breathing spots can sometimes be ignored in pieces like this because there's no obvious places for breath. So be sure to take a tiny breath at the end of those phrases so that the music doesn't have a continuous sound from start to finish and no structure. And finally, feel free to add in a little bit of rubato here and there and musical expression and really make the piece your own. You'll also see a few ritardando markings marked in at the end of the middle section and at the very end of the piece. And now here's a performance of Living in Harmony. Try to watch and listen for some of the things I talked about in today's teaching video. I hope you enjoyed today's teaching video on the piece Living in Harmony from Piano for the Planet. Good luck on this piece. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.